Hello and welcome to our second episode of the Wellhouse Exorcism. Laura and Ray are back.
Hello.
Hello.
And we are going to be telling the story of our house.
Dun dun dun.
Which is what we are calling the Wellhouse. And we'll explain why in just a second here.
I want to just put out here that I am married into this family, and I didn't know that there was a well in the house or anything. So a lot of this was surprising for me, and it kind of unfolded as the story goes for me. So imagine, viewers, that you are me.
Just coming in blind to the situation.
Like, sure, totally move in. Oh my gosh, what's happening?
Yep.
Such a normal house from
It's
the
fine.
outside.
I married into the family too. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Thanks for
I'm pretty sure.
clarification.
Yes.
Ray and I are
You would
outside.
never know by the photos, but I did.
Oh my gosh. Of course, they won't understand that joke unless you say that you are.
We'll have pictures up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to put some photos up, but
Yep.
yes.
Yes,
Well, it's
Ray,
like-
you're half Japanese, half Filipino, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Always tan. Must be nice. Moving on. I'm always Casper White. I fit my house.
Oh, see.
I could climb out of the well and be the ring. Like, that could be me.
Ooh, you have long hair, too.
I do.
I'd rather you didn't.
Me too. That well's never getting opened again.
First
All
off,
right.
yeah. Plus, rock climbing is hard.
The exorcist told us to leave that there, to leave the lid on. So we're going to do that.
All right.
All right.
I did not receive that instruction, so...
Well, you shouldn't touch it. All right.
So
Like
no
many
fishing.
things.
No fishing in the well.
Yes. He had so many ideas for Halloween.
I did.
So anyway, PJ is going to take off the stories because, as I understand it, you guys never had any issues in this house, right?
We were oblivious, apparently.
We probably should say that the house that PJ and I live in has been in the Hayden family for...
At least 30 years.
33.
Since the 80s.
33
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And we bought this from my in-laws, so your parents. But I feel like at the time there were so many people living in this house that if things were happening, it would have been like, all right,
That's
Jen,
true.
yeah, who would move the stuff this time, you know?
I mean, if we want to talk about a horror show, let's just talk about... Okay, so it was Mom and Dad, me and Ray, Jen and her husband, PJ. We're talking 7 people, 1 bathroom.
And then a baby.
And then a baby. And then a
That's
baby.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot of people with 1 bathroom.
Yes, 1 bathroom and 4 bedrooms upstairs.
Yeah, we were in the
Thankfully,
attic.
there was an attic.
Yes.
Which is also part of the story.
Yes. I remember actually the day that we moved into the house, and it was all empty, and it was hardwood floors, and we're sliding around. We were so excited, and it was January. It was New Year's, so right after. And so we went, we're going through the house, picking out rooms. We go up to the attic, and PJ, you're probably too young to remember.
I was 2.
Okay, and the attic stayed more or less the same, but is it cool for me to describe the attic as
Go
it was?
for it.
As a
I'd like
kid,
to hear all about it because I wasn't there.
Neither
was Ray.
The attic.
No, because
So,
we
yeah.
married in.
We married. It's very important we point that out.
So the attic is sort of like a kid's dream. You go up these creaky wooden steps, and there's a landing with like an old window at the landing, and
That
then you go
opens,
up.
and you can
that
fall out
opens.
of.
You can totally fall out. Could
Yes.
have gone right out that window. I mean, it's just something
That's a
about
kid's
that.
dream. Continue, Laura.
It was. It felt exciting.
Was
There
it
is
my
something
dream?
really cool about
It
it.
is.
Yes!
It's very whimsical, I
It
have to admit.
is.
It's very beautiful.
And so you go up, you make the turn, and you go up the next few steps, and then you're in this very large attic. It's 2 full-sized rooms. Like I don't know how big each room is, but
It was
probably
for the
15
servants
by
way
18.
back. And this house
Yeah.
is from the 1800s, so
Yeah.
the servants lived there.
Absolutely. So you're talking 2 15 by 18 rooms. Plus, it's the
Yeah. Eve storage.
Yes, there's very large Eve storage. If you've ever been in there, you could fit bodies in there.
There's one I still haven't fully been into because it's unfinished, and I've never gone all the way back.
It
into
looks like
it.
they were redoing it before your parents bought it, but there's slats of wood missing.
Yeah.
So if you don't step correctly,
right through.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a little scary. But yeah, so the parts of it, the outer edges are a little slanted. But we go up into this attic, and Mom and Dad at the time, it was right after Christmas, they had put up my great-grandmother's 70s Christmas tree, which was like that silver tinsel kind of look. It was awesome. And they just had like a few little gifts for us. Just to, it was a new house. It was right after Christmas. And the room itself was so cool. The walls had this blood red wallpaper.
That sounds lovely.
with like a fleur-de-lis pattern on it. Very, very charming. And then the ceiling was totally black. The trim was painted black. And then on one of the rooms, there was this sort of a night sky kind of a look. So it went from the black fading into a navy blue, and it had like kind of like clouds, like psychedelic almost colors.
And like three-dimensional stars and shapes on
yes,
it, too.
Yes. Including a pentagram.
And didn't they
And
glow
yeah,
in the
there was
dark?
a pentagram, which I wasn't told about before buying the house.
And that was on a
Nor
different
your
wall.
That was
'cause
on a different
I
wall.
don't remember.
No,
Yes.
Mom and Dad painted over that. I was told that, remember?
Yes.
In front of one of our very recent priests, and he said he saw my jaw drop and me go pale.
Yes.
There was a what in my house?
I don't actually remember the pentagram. I just remember the stars.
Well, you couldn't
but-
because it was painted over.
Yeah.
Mom
And-
very serious said, no, we painted over that because it didn't seem appropriate.
Well, she wasn't
I
wrong.
mean, to her credit, it wasn't appropriate.
No. It doesn't go with the Christmas theme.
Yeah. So that to me was the
It's
attic,
not.
and it was just the whole experience was very exciting. It was a very, very fun experience, and I was 8, so you must have been 3 or so, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe
He
I
was
was
gonna be
7.
3
When
because
you
he was-
moved into the
yeah,
house we're
right.
still
Yeah, I think
talking
I was
about,
actually
yeah.
7 when we first moved in, and I turned.
No,
8.
you've been 2.
You'd have been 2
We
then.
moved in 89.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if it was
So, yeah, it's a
early 89, I would have been 2.
Yep. You were probably 2 then, and I was probably 7 because I remember turning 8.
Okay.
Which,
second grade.
based on
Mhm.
the timeline, that makes sense.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it's important to know that there was a pentagram in this
Yeah,
house, too.
yeah.
So what wall was it on? I was never
It was
quite
on
sure.
the ceiling. I thought Mom said it was on the ceiling.
Wait, you saw it too. Right?
It was so what I painted and we saw come through. I wasn't sure if that was the stars you guys were talking about, but that was on the ceiling over in the play area, not the sleeping area. Yeah.
Well,
So
this-
I probably should say for the listeners, when we started fixing up the attic, we painted the ceilings white because it's much more classy than black and creepy. So we were putting up kills, the primer ceiling stuff, and as I'm painting it, there are like stars coming through, which shouldn't have because that wasn't like your parents had painted over it. So
Right.
what we were
It was
painting over,
black.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever they painted over, like it wasn't there. But as I'm painting, this orange design of like a star starts bleeding through. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Like that wasn't there. So I thought that was very interesting because it was covered. That shouldn't have happened. It was over where the futon is.
So let's start way back at the beginning then. In the late 1800s and probably before that even, legend has it, we still have to look it up at the county office, but legend has it that this house was built on top of like the town watering hole.
Oh, it's not legend. The Exorcist did all that betting, and that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And it almost has to be because there is a well
there's
here.
a well in our basement.
Yeah,
yes.
this
That-
was the watering hole for the entire town.
Yeah, literally
Way
in our
back
basement
before the
is
1800s.
a well. For most of the time that we lived here, we were told that water is very important for the reason why we were experiencing everything in this house. We didn't understand why. One of the priests, when we get to it, he will give his reason for it. That's just some premise of, like why the house is the way it is, and that there is a well in the basement, and there's like a big slate rock that covers it
And
right
it
now.
spiritually closed off.
Yeah, it's been blessed and sealed by an exorcist.
Oiled up, I guess.
We'll get to that.
Right, the well itself. I mean, you go
And
back
it's not
to-
the well, but
Well, no,
there's a whole
but
story.
the house is on Main Street near the main intersection of town, a block away from the main little creek. That back when the town was being founded, this was strategically an important
Yeah, it's
area.
where the post office, right
Yes.
where the hotel was, the
Yes.
bank, where you would train
The
your
mill, which
Change your
the
horse.
town is
Everything.
named
And
after.
really, the town's
I
kind
know,
of
the fire hall.
Yes, but
Yeah.
if you ever hear that going off in the podcast, you know why. But yeah, the town has in many ways sprung up around this well. So it is. I do think that it was absolutely at least one of
One of
the
a couple
important-
town
yeah,
wells.
this was an
yeah.
important
watering holes. Yes.
So the house is on that area.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but I'm excited to hear your stories. It's been a while.
It has been a while since we talked
Yeah.
about it, really.
I do want to point out that I didn't know any of these stories until like 2 blessings into the house. So go ahead and tell your stories, Pete.
When I was little, I was just always afraid of being alone in the house. I remember, and Eli did the same thing, our son, when he was really young. It was like, I had people like escort me around the house when I needed to go upstairs, because I was just terrified of being upstairs alone. And I would feel, when I went to bed at night, I would feel like the bed wobble. And it was very soft. It was very soft shaking, but I equated it to like when you're sitting stopped in traffic and it feels like the cars around you are moving, like that sense of vertigo. I had that. I thought it was just vertigo, like I thought it was in my head. Even as a small child, I'm like, this is just in my head, I'm just feeling a little dizzy, and I ignored it until one day our cat Shadow was on the bed with me. Bed started to wobble, and she bolted out of the room. Ever since then, I knew that something was up.
Didn't she like even leave like scratch marks on you? You said
No, she just bolted off the
Okay.
bed and ran away.
That
Left
totally
me stranded on the bed.
that totally
Bye.
makes sense, though. Yeah, Shadow, like, she's a wonderful cat, but she was in it for herself, and
Oh,
she
yeah.
was out the door if there was like, she was like, oh, I'm not dealing with this.
take the child.
Oh yeah. Before, right before we started recording this podcast, our son also like asked to pray to his guardian angel to not have any bad dreams, and that's something that kind of sprung from events that happened in the house, and he had lots of bad dreams. But it was me that told him to pray because that's something I had to do every night. Because if I didn't, every single time I didn't, I got a nightmare, like bad nightmare.
Well, and that was
just-
explained later by the priest to the exorcist. He said that, demons prey upon those that can't fight back. And so for you guys, you probably never experienced anything because Pete, you were the youngest PJ, right? Like,
Yeah.
by far, and so the most vulnerable. In our house, really there was issues with our daughter. And then once Eli was born, he had issues.
It was him, yeah.
And so really, he said it's the person who is the youngest or is the most vulnerable. At the time, remember, he had a speech impediment.
So you'd asked me, like, before if anything odd had ever happened in this house, and I had said no, but then I was thinking, like, I don't know why, but that's popped into my brain. I'm like, why did I not think of this before? There were two weird things that did happen.
I'm glad it's coming to you. Tell me.
Okay. I assume it was Jen, our sister Jen, who, with her friend, brought home a Ouija board.
Oh, no.
I
There was
remember
a
the
Ouija
board.
Do you?
I remember
in
it
my house,
under.
too?
I remember it under the bed for
Listeners,
a long
I just
time.
got something else very important. There was a Ouija board in my
Yes.
house.
Yes.
Great.
And so...
I definitely told you that.
I forgot.
Even I knew the Ouija board story.
Shut up, Ray. You married into this family.
So, but my friend and I, under mom's supervision, we're allowed to, like, use it.
What?
Which
I can't believe mom allowed you
Yes.
to use it.
but
need
it
to
was
make some
very
notes.
much
I mean-
meant to be a one and done thing. But of course, my friend and I were very fascinated by it, so we snuck upstairs and we used it again. I'm not kidding when I say that the board went crazy. Like, it was zigging and zagging all over the board, like, super, super fast. And then what's it called? The
Planchette.
planchette, like, literally flew off and flung into the wall.
Which room was that in?
Probably the attic.
No.
Sophie's room, right?
No.
The nursery?
Your
basement.
room. Master
Awesome.
bedroom.
Master
really?
bedroom.
Yeah, because
Mom
that's where
and
it was.
Dad
It was
let
under
you
the
do
bed
that
there.
in the-
We knew it was hidden under the bed, so that's where we went.
I knew it was under a bed. I didn't remember which bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other weird thing that happened right around the same time is I remember I was in the kitchen getting a snack, whatever, and mom was watching TV here, and from where you are in the kitchen, you can see into what was then the TV room. And I was like, oh, what are you watching? It was The Exorcist. It had already started, so it was maybe a quarter in or maybe midway by the time I was joining in. So I finished this whole movie with my mom sitting on the couch, and I was absolutely terrified for months afterwards. Left the lights on,
course,
prayed. I slept on the floor because that way nothing can come out of the bed to get you. I was absolutely terrified. And then years later, I said to Mom, I said, I can't believe you let me watch that. Like, you wouldn't let me watch, like, Beavis and Butthead. You know what I mean? Like, I cannot believe you allowed me to watch The Exorcist. And, like, and that you watched it. That you were watching it was weird. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, The Exorcist. Like, when we watched it together, she said, Laura, she said, A, I would never watch that. And B, I would never let you watch it, especially as a young kid. Which was true. She never let us watch horror movies, anything like that.
She saw it in the theater, and she said she'll never watch it again.
We weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm not kidding, because she thought that he was rude. We couldn't watch The Simpsons. No. Like, when I say that she would never have let me watch The Exorcist, that is not an exaggeration. So she has zero memory of that happening.
Interesting.
So anyway,
That's wild.
That fits nicely into the exorcism of the Wellhouse. All right.
Yeah, I'm
glad it
popped
came
in my
to
brain.
you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And this atmosphere of sharing ghost stories that came back.
Yeah.
I can add those to my classroom too, which is nice. All right, so you have some stories though. So you had the shaking bed. Obviously, it was attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
But what else happened?
It was just, that kind of stuff, like minor things, nothing, of consequence really, until I got older, and my best friend Dan was over, and we were sitting in the living room watching a movie, and we hear the front door open, and we're like, who's that? And so we get up and look, and there's no one there, and we're like, okay, well, it's weird, so we walk over and we close it. And now the way our house is laid out is about 12 feet down a hallway from the front door. To the right is the basement door. So if you are able to, shut the front door hard enough, you could get that basement door to, pop open from a vacuum forming. So we shut the front door, and we sit down, we resume the movie, and then we hear again this click, and we're like, that was another door opening. And we look, and the front door is closed. And then we go into the hallway, and we see that the basement door is open. And I'm like, could have just, maybe popped open a little bit from when we shut the front door. Maybe. So we close the basement door. Sit back down. Turn the movie back on. And then 5 minutes later or so, we hear another click. We get back up, and the front door is open again. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is and we weren't even scared. We were just annoyed by all this. And so we go to the front door, shut the front door, and immediately the basement door just swings open. And I'm like, all right, you're going to shut the basement door. I'm going to shut the front door. We're going to lock them. We're going to sit back down. We're going to ignore this. And so, shoom, click, click, we sit back down. And then not less than a minute later, we hear click, click, both doors wide open. And we're just like, we give up. We're gone. And we went and took a walk, and we weren't even we weren't scared. We were just annoyed by it. But the fact that it happened, and we both saw it and interacted with it was definitely of note. And then maybe a year or two later, we were playing video games in my bedroom, and I had a Megatron Transformer, and he's neon green with purple stripes. He was weird looking, but he was a tank that turned into a robot, and he was standing up robot form on my dresser, and we're playing a game, and out of the blue, we just hear, Megatron attack! And he hits our friend Jared, just falls onto his head.
I love it. That's perfect.
And in this stunned silence, Jared grabs his head, looks at the toy, and just goes, ow!
Fun sidebar. Years later, we found that toy in the basement. We put it in a birthday bag to give to Jared for his birthday.
Love it.
And
with the card, Megatron attack, I
He
hope.
opened it at our 4th of July party, and he just goes, why? No! Take it back!
And we also had a Furby that died while it was being pet. Because the original Furbies, you could pet its back, and it would be like, ooh, feels good.
Purr.
Can we say that Furbies are gross? I don't like Furbies.
And then it died, mid-purr, and it just kind of shut down on my friend Billy. That was when I was in 6th grade. Sometime around 9th or 10th grade, we're in my bedroom again, which connected to the attic. We hear this buzzing sound. We're like, what is that? And we're scouring my bedroom, and we just hear this bzzz. And we're like, what is this sound? Then we realize, like, okay, it's not in the room. We open up the attic door, and it's louder. And we're like, it's upstairs. We go upstairs, and there's this Furby with its eyes half open, and it's just going... And
Sorry, I hate Furbies so much.
after all those years, it just turned on and started buzzing. And
Ray, did you have a Furby growing up?
You know what? My first experience with Furbies was in this house.
Of course it was. Yeah, because Furbies are monsters.
Mine was totally pleasant. I mean, well, I didn't have like any issues with my Furby.
Show
I remember actually you gave me my Furby.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh. I don't remember that.
Welcome to the family for
Yeah, I wonder how that
It
came
might
about.
buzz
Yeah.
in the attic later.
Yeah.
You're fine.
It had a very positive familial energy. This
Oh,
Furby.
good. Surrounded by rose quartz. You
It
know.
was just probably PJ's old
And
creepy one.
sage.
And sage.
Regifted it.
It was holding sage.
Yeah.
But then Laura had a horse.
Ah, yes. I still have that horse, actually.
What kind of horse is it?
It's plastic, and it's like 18 inches tall, and its legs had
Articulation.
joints. It was articulated legs, and if you pulled back on the harness, it would make this neighing sound.
And it had a button on its hip.
And it had
too.
a button on its hip that would make like
clippity-clop
clomping sounds,
noise.
clippity clop of a horse
Was it for
galloping.
like an 18-inch doll or 16-inch doll, whatever those are?
Was it
I'd
for,
say
like-
it was
or was it
more
just
like
a
Was it
horse?
Barbie horse?
it was too fat to be a Barbie horse.
It
Like
wasn't
Barbie
a Barbie
wouldn't
horse.
fit
It
on
was
it.
just,
Oh.
It was
its
just a
own
horse?
But
thing.
proportionately, it would be a good Barbie
It
horse.
would. It was maybe a bit on the large side.
Yeah.
But it was, on the large side, but it could have been a Barbie horse
Okay.
in that same.
Maybe like a Clydesdale or something for a Barbie.
yeah,
Right.
maybe it was
It
only
was
like
a
12
big
inches.
horse.
It
Yeah.
Yes, it was a
His
Zoftig horse.
could- Fun toy as a kid.
Nice toy. Okay.
Still love that toy.
Yeah.
Still in my attic because, like, what else are you gonna do with the thing? Nobody else wants it.
Really?
You can stay out of my house after the stories I've heard. Stay in your attic.
So,
anyways, for years, that thing would neigh and make clopping noises without any batteries in it.
absolutely, that's 100% true. I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
The neighing or the story?
Both. Yeah, both. But the neighing, the clopping, the
Yeah.
That's fine.
the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned about that after our second blessing on this house as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, because it's not
Glad
just
there were
that
toys in the attic.
It's not just that the batteries were dead. There were no batteries in it.
Yeah.
No, I feel like
it was an empty compartment.
Yes.
some of those stories, like, you could really, like, while away. Electrical things can happen in Furbies and horses. But I feel like the door story is interesting, at least.
Yeah.
It was very intriguing for me when you told me. Mostly I was horrified. The Megatron thing I just found kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was hitting Jared. But I feel like you could, like, even, explain that away, too. Maybe you guys were jumping around and it fell, even though it
Yeah.
talked. I feel like you could explain that away.
Yeah, funny
That's what-
coincidence.
Some of our later stories, though, like, the
You can't
planchette
explain
flying
that.
away, you can't explain that away, in my
Right.
opinion.
I would like to talk to an engineer or something about the horse, because something just, I realized that for an electronic to work, it needs a closed loop.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a battery missing, that's a whole segment of the loop that's not there.
We
That's
still
for a
have it.
simple
We should do
circuit.
testing.
Huh?
That's for a simple circuit,
Yeah.
but
So,
they're more complicated.
There
I
might be,
think.
like, parallel circuits.
I have.
or
I'm just
something like
trying
that.
to be that person.
Exactly.
you
Like,
know.
well, that's the thing. Is like there are many times where we could explain it away, like we just did with the horse. There are many times, but then it got to the point where there were too many times where we couldn't explain.
we
it
just
away.
called priests.
Yeah.
I think that's where I take over from
Yeah.
some of my stories that you may not have heard, Laura and Ray. So, as you guys know, we suddenly acquired this house when there was a family loss with your uncle. And so we said we'd kind of come in here and take care of the house, and then maybe the parents could sell it. We ended up buying it instead, for better or worse, as the years progressed. But the first thing that I noticed when I moved in was the loss of my shoes. And really, for my stories, mine center around things being taken. So whatever was here initially just wanted us to know it was there. And I found it freaking annoying because I never believed in ghosts. I thought it was cutesy. I would watch Exorcist and laugh. Like, that was the person that I was. That me going into this house, didn't really believe. I believed in demons, obviously, but, like, I believed ghosts would go to heaven or hell, and that was it, as part of my religion.
Although I do have to break in because this is after living at our house.
Yes, well, when I started dating the Haydens.
Oh,
let's
okay.
put it that way.
Okay.
I became open to the possibility. That's right. You're right. So I'll backtrack a little bit there. You people, I'll tell you what.
Well,
when you marry in race, what happens? You get creepy Furbies. Although yours was all fancy, but I guess.
well, he was just oblivious, maybe. We don't know. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we moved in, and it was my first year of teaching. And if anyone's out there who's a teacher, you're stressed out as it is. So you may lose things because you're so tired when you get home. So one morning I was getting ready for work, and I noticed that my favorite pair of shoes to wear was missing. Now, I should point out that I'm pretty short, and I was teaching middle schoolers, and the water at my old school grew some tall boys. So I needed some heels to be taller than my 8th grade students. And so I had wedges because they were comfortable, and I wouldn't clicky-clack all over the classroom. So I had them in black and I had them in brown. I was very intelligent. I bought one of each, So I'm looking for my black shoes, and I kept my stuff where it was supposed to be because I'm an unorganized person. I need to know where it is. Just missing. So fine, I switch out the pants, put on khakis, use the brown shoes. Next day, black shoes still missing. I still can't find them. I'm getting kind of cranky. By Wednesday, I realize I have no more pants that are going to match brown shoes, so I got to find these black ones tonight. And so I'm looking around all over the house, and I can't find them. So finally I said, you know what? I have to get ready for my next unit, The Giver, which is a novel that you teach commonly in middle school. And I had an entire unit I had made in college. So I had it in a box of stuff we had brought to the house from your house. And it was in what is now the nursery, right? Or sorry, what was the nursery? So Eli's room.
Which also connects to the attic for anyone.
No, sorry.
The
original
side.
nursery. So I should say the original nursery.
The original. Okay.
Yeah.
That was my bedroom.
Yes, your bed. And so when you walk into that room, there's the door, and it's pretty much in the one corner of this rectangle. It's a very small room. And when you walk in to your right, there's the wall there, right away. And so I walk in with the door open, and I immediately turn to my right to go through the box that I have put in there of my stuff. Because this really was our storage room at the time. And something just kind of caught my eye. And so I kind of look over to that corner that faces the door, and there are my black shoes. And they are at a 45-degree angle up against in that corner, like literally in that 90-degree corner. And they're facing out towards the door like someone is standing there in the corner staring at the door. And I definitely did not put those shoes there. So I was like, I need those. So I took them. Because initially I thought that PJ was playing a prank on me because he thinks he's funny. Later found out that no, it was not him. And he was very happy that I found them. And I was like, okay, that was so obvious you were happy. This could not have been you hiding them. So that was my origination of things being taken and then given back, So then not too long later, my watch also went missing. My mom, for my graduation, bought me a watch that, really probably isn't that expensive, but the thought was beautiful. It, was just silver, and the back of it was that kind of pearl. So it was a very pretty watch, and I used it a lot my first year because we're supposed to time our students and do bell ringers and blah, 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 all that APL stuff. So I go to put it on, and back in the day, by my bed, my dresser would be my jewelry box that PJ got me for one of our Christmases. Remember my phone holder that was a chair?
We still have that, actually.
Yeah, the
we
kids
tried
use it.
selling it at a yard sale.
Sophie used it for
garage.
Barbies. Yeah. So I had it's a little chair. So it's like a stress reliever chair, but it's also for your phone. You can charge it. So my phone would sit in the chair and I would charge it. Then it'd be my watch and my glasses because I used all of those, obviously. So I go to bed. It was all good to go. Out I go. So next morning, put the glasses on, grab the phone, and then watch isn't there. And I think, okay, it's my first year. Maybe I left it in the bathroom, getting a shower. It's not there. Come back in. I start scrounging around in the jewelry box. And PJ at the time was still a student teaching. He's like, what are you doing? Because he's still sleeping. Must be nice. And I said, my watch is missing. And he knew how important it was to me. So he helped try and find it. Like, we couldn't find it anywhere. And so finally I was in the bathroom. I was like, I just really want the watch back. Like, it's so important to me. I just need that watch back. We go back in the bedroom, and it's laying where it's supposed to. And I'm like, listen, we just looked there. Like, definitely did not miss that. So that's when I realized that something was going on. But I'm like, okay, if it's just taking my shoes and my watch, I returned them, whatever. I'm not going to talk to it because in all the movies I've watched when I didn't believe in ghosts, talking to it and identifying with it makes it worse. So I wanted to ignore it. But then after that, something happened that was so severe that we couldn't ignore it. And that actually happened when I was sleeping.
Okay, so we were part of a community acting group.
You remember those years, yes.
So that's not important immediately, but that will come up later in my little bit here.
It was important to me.
It was the year that you were a gingerbread man.
Mm-hmm.
Rocked
Good
my
year.
socks off.
Oh, was that the year?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
I just remember him wearing a gingerbread
Yeah.
costume.
He was just a really good gingerbread man. It's a
The
memorable
makeup was
performance.
exquisite.
So,
It's neither here nor there.
So
Segue.
And on that note,
Thank you, Ray.
So, Shayna had gone to bed for the night, and the way our room was set up at the time was our bed was shoved into a corner, and my side of the bed was up against the wall, and so since she was asleep, she was on the edge of the bed, away from the wall, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed playing a video game. And when I decided to go to sleep, I turn off the game and everything, and I go to turn off the lights for the room. And just as my hand is like going for the light switch, I see this black, not almost like fog, but it was solid. Like it wasn't murky, it wasn't translucent. It was completely opaque.
So you couldn't see through it at all.
Right.
Wow,
It-
okay.
Yeah, it was, and I'm like, oh crap! But my hand was still moving, and so light goes off. And as soon as the light went off, she starts talking a different language. And very quickly, I flip my hand back up, and she stops. As soon as the lights come on, she stops talking, and she's just sleeping like
Ta-da.
nothing happened. The room is normal, everything's fine. I'm freaking out.
Because his future wife is speaking a different language.
Yep.
It's amazing. I don't want to brag, but I can do it in my sleep, literally.
I mean, apparently.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
Since she had work in the morning, I'm
Part
like,
drives me nuts.
well, I mean, okay, so
I know.
I knew that if I were to just wake her from a dead sleep and be like, hey, there's this thing over you, and then you start talking a different language, like, she wouldn't sleep for the rest of the night. So I let go.
Yeah, I mean, you know what,
That
though?
was
As
thoughtful
somebody
of
else
you.
who has also
give you
lived in
that.
a haunted house, like, I get it. Like, there are certain things you're just like, it'll wait till morning.
Yeah.
You know, like
why?
that's the point. Like this, like why wake
Well, I'm
somebody
just
up? Like
I mean, do you have?
I would. Can I speak as the party here?
I
The
probably
party.
would've
I would
wanted
have
to know.
preferred being told.
Me too. Maybe it's just a married into the family sort of thing.
Oh, I was. You know what? If I'm speaking in tongues, let's get out of here. Was it Latin? Because I don't speak a lick of Latin.
So I tell her in the morning about what happened, and she was.
Not the morning, that afternoon.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I went
You
through it.
really let this ride.
Yeah.
I
spent
mean,
an entire workday having a good day.
All right. Well, my
But again,
reasoning.
Oh, trust me, I remember
what's
this.
the point? You get up, you're in a rush, you have to go to work. Like
No,
that's
no,
not
like,
something you can talk about.
I mean, I guess I know where you're.
If
coming.
I didn't tell
It's
her,
already
I can
happened.
pretty much guarantee that my reasoning was I don't want her to be thinking about.
That's
this
what
the
it
whole time
was.
while
Yeah,
we
I mean,
talk.
that's what he
Talk.
told me. I didn't want you to be
fair.
upset, but
So afterwards, then when we got home, is when I said like, "Hey, this happened," and she's like, "All right, well, what did I say?" I'm like, "I don't know. It was a different language." I'm like,
Mumble.
it sounded like Mary Squeak. That's why I heard Mary Squeak, and we talked about like back and forth a little bit of what it could be, and she's like, "Is it je me suis?" I'm like, "Yeah, that could be it," and
or je suis moi.
yeah, and but at the time, like your French
Yeah.
would have just said "je me
Rudimentary.
suis" because that's what you knew to say,
Yeah.
which translates roughly to "I am me." Anyone who speaks French, people on Reddit who have read this story, would know that they informed me often like that's not accurate French or anything, but
listen, yeah, I'm American and I was practicing.
yeah,
so.
from high school French, that's the best she got.
So apparently you were very philosophical. You dream, therefore you are.
Yes. Je pense donc je suis. See, I can say that now. I think, therefore I am.
So, yeah, we're like, okay, so there's this, like, black form over you, and you're saying, I am me. Like, that's not creepy at all. No.
No, you can't have me. I'm me.
So, we then go.
Wait, pause. I said no to the possession.
Oh,
All right.
you are you.
It's good.
You're welcome.
But in what language?
Broken French.
Okay.
Bonjour.
We think.
Où est la discothèque? I didn't say that, so we're okay. Je veux la fenêtre. All the Bluey fans will get that.
Yes. So we go to
Play practice
at the auditorium, and our friend Rhonda is there, and we're making small talk, and she is very distracted, not making eye contact at all.
It felt very rude.
Yeah, and then it got to the point where she just, like, as we were telling her something, she holds up her finger and says, "Can you please stop?" And we're like,
Sorry.
yeah, and we're like, what? She goes, "There is a black thing in the room right now, and I can't lock on to it. Every time I look at it, it jumps somewhere
And
else."
it's behind you guys.
Yeah. And we're like, "Oh, let us tell you about this black thing that we saw last night."
Not we. You.
Yeah. And it, the fact that it followed us out of the house
Yeah.
was a big red flag, and
It had us very concerned.
yeah, led us to making some phone calls.
So yeah, we called, well, because, we're all the same religion, but I called your father and I say, like, what do we do? I talked to Mom, and they said, we got to call the priest. So your dad took care of all that, and Father came and gave the house a blessing. He said, this should be okay, this should work, and he did a blessing throughout the entire house. And is that when he mentioned the well?
Yes.
the second time?
So, no, it was the first
First time.
time. Father, he asked, like, if there's anything special about the house, anything. We said, like, well, there is a well
Apart
in the
from Shanna
basement.
living here.
And to be clear, this is the parish priest, not
Yes.
the
Yes.
future
Yeah,
exorcist that we
right.
alluded
Yes.
to. Yes.
This is
many
this is just the
parish
priest.
priests
Yes.
have blessed this house.
And he's like, I always heard that, like, water is a gateway, like a portal, so to speak, for spirits to travel in and out. So if you have, like, different experiences, a lot, it could be because there are different things that just come in, do something, and leave, and then something else comes in and does something and
You
leaves.
compare it to like a hotel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like so you always have guests coming in.
Hotel Waterfornia.
Wow, what a better name for this, but no. Okay.
That's it. That's it. Name change.
Name change, Hotel
It seems too
Waterfornia.
happy. We could have Ray play the piano and play Hotel
Oh,
California.
Yes.
Think of those ivories over there, Ray.
Gosh.
The
I was
pressure.
expecting this to be like a gig, aside from.
I have to
Wowzers.
prepare something?
I know,
I guess
What?
I could just show you like, oh, sure, I'll play it. Oh, I don't know how to play this. So
But
Ray's an accomplished pianist, just saying.
I play
watch
one.
your mouth.
That's how you... We've had this conversation. And it's flautist, not flutist. Moving on.
Moving on. The priest then said, like, this will always be a Band-Aid fix because you can bless the house, things will be gone, and then they'll just come right back. So
Or new ones will come back.
yeah, something will come back. Like, so it will always just be a temporary fix.
Yeah. Now, in that time, too, because the timeline, it's been a decade plus since we've lived here. I had been having dreams, and I would hear giggles in the attic of little kids timpering around, like you hear little tootsies tinkling on the floor, but like just the giggling, that kind of stuff. So that's important later when we tell some of our more thorough attic stories. Like PJ has some stories going up there, but I want to transfer that I know it is chronological. After the black figure, after the blessing, I think we were more on task watching for things because we were just nervous. Because I think the black figure was just enough for both of us. I didn't see it, but I was a part of it, And so we flash forward. We've been married. We are now pregnant. And I had this favorite purple dress, and you may not remember it, but I loved it. It was very 50s. It tied here. It kind of like a full skirt. The one I bought from LuLaRoe was just a filler because it reminded me of that first purple dress that I had. And I had 50s style shoes that matched it. It was great. It also kind of helped hide the growing belly. Well, whatever was here liked that darn dress. And it would just disappear. I could have it hang in the closet because I hang up my clothes like, a non-heathen. And it would just disappear. And I would get so angry, and I would just say, I want my dress. I want to wear it today. I'd open that closet door again, and there it is laying across my shoes, where it wasn't before. And I'm like, mm-hmm. But I realized if I just spoke out loud, like, oh my gosh, I wish I had my watch. I wish I had my shoes. Wish I had my dress. Things would just reappear.
Yeah.
So I wasn't
you
talking.
know that was true for us. From our previous stories, that happened to us all the time.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a thing that happens for sure.
And I was like, if this is just some little child ghost, whatever, having fun here, I'm not going to talk to it, but at least I'll get my stuff back. So that's kind of what I went for. So the purple dress kept disappearing. Now, I do want to say that over the course of years, that dress disappeared. We have the house exorcised. That dress still has not been found. It's been gone for a very long time. It's somewhere in the well house. It's not in the well, no.
Could be.
The exorcist said
it might be.
No, the exorcist said it's not. Because didn't they look in it?
Could have floated down.
It would have floated to the top.
No, we didn't.
Wait.
We never opened the
Oh.
lid.
But yeah, that
I was
dress.
just gonna ask that. I was like, you opened the lid.
I mean, we
we
opened it, but not
You
when
didn't
the
like-
Exorcist was
yeah.
here. No, I have a picture of it open.
Yeah,
Posted.
I can say that.
Is there water still?
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
fresh water. Zombie apocalypse. I don't care if demons come. We have fresh water. Come here.
Because that's what Mom always used to say. Like, if there wasn't ever, like, an emergency, she said, we could open that up. We'd have fresh water.
We just gotta, close up all the windows because there's a lot of windows in this house. But that dress is still gone. Like, I loved it, and I'm sad because it was a great dress. But whatever, I will lose the dress if it means that, of course, there is no demon in the house. So then I mentioned I was already pregnant with our first child. We had stored things in the attic because, as you guys remember, when we moved into this house initially over the loss of your uncle, all of your parents' stuff was still here.
Oh,
And it couldn't go up to their new house because your great-grandmother your grandmother couldn't handle seeing new things in her house because it just confused her,
Right. She was already
So,
in some level of dementia.
we were guardians to your parents' stuff, along with our own stuff. We had like 2 rooms to ourselves. So we carved a little section of the attic for ourselves, and that's where we stored like all of our stuff for the nursery. So as we finished painting the nursery, so Eli's room, I went up there to get like the linens, that I had up there. And as you mentioned before, this is a full-sized attic. And I tell this to my students, like, you have to imagine you're walking up there. This is where the servants would have stayed. And so when you go over the threshold, the front section of it is where the servants would have had, like, a sitting area, or what we have as a sitting area, play area. And then the other side of the chimney would have been the bedroom. And it is for us, too. I was in that bedroom section looking through a box of things. So looking through from that doorway area and the chimney to the front area, I heard a very female voice talk to me. And she was very confused, not malicious at all. I didn't get scared, really. I was just unnerved because she said distinctly, "Is that my baby?" And I'm there holding nursery stuff and I am watermelon pregnant. So I'm like, nope. I drop it. I waddle down the stairs and I added some expletives. I'm like, PJ, you're going to the attic from now on because I am not going back up there. I'm done. You can get all of our stuff because something up there, once this baby, ain't happening. All right. So at that point, I actually went ahead and on my way to my work, there was it still exists, a very small Catholic shop. Love it. I had talked to my friends who were Catholic, and they had suggested buying crucifixes for every room that didn't have one. Because we have a prayer station, we have everything. But I went there with the thought of buying a crucifix for every room. So there I was counting my fingers how many rooms were in this stinking house. And so I went in there and I saw this beautiful, intricate, just beautifully carved crucifix. And it was on sale. So I was like, yay. And so I said to the man, I'm like, I want like 13 of those. Like how many rooms are in the house? Like a whole bunch of these. And he said, well, it's our last one. That's why it's on sale. So you can have this one, but what else do you want? I'm like, well, I'll take the usual Catholic crucifix there where Jesus is bleeding. Like everyone, if you're Catholic, the crucifix with the blood dripping, the stigmata.
We Catholics keep them on the cross.
Yeah, no,
Attached to the...
So I come home with a whole bunch of that, and actually it's behind you, that crucifix behind you up on the wall. And so I put that crucifix in this room because at the time, as you mentioned, it was the living room. Your parents had the TV in here. We didn't move any furniture because we were waiting to get it to their new house. Right. So this was our living room at the time. We flip-flopped later, obviously. But I wanted that crucifix to be where I was the most because, in the morning you're sitting watching TV. You're in the living room. In the evening, I would come home, make dinner, come in here. We'd watch the TV. I'd grade my papers in here. And I just felt, and I still do, I feel very calm with it. I feel like I feel like I could pray with it, which is interesting because I've never had an issue with prayer, but I felt like in other rooms it was difficult to even say, "Dear God." Like, it couldn't come off my lips. I could think it, but I couldn't say it. So I wanted it where I could be with it the most amount of time. I would like it in my bedroom too, but I had to have the other crucifixes. So at that point, every room has a crucifix in it. We have rosaries hanging. We have that crucifix right there. We have our prayer station, of course. It was already here, but we have really Jesusified the house, I guess, to make up a word.
Oh, so I have a T-Rex from the Lost World, and it's
Beautiful toy.
I love it. You can feed it things and get the food out of its stomach and things like that.
That goes rawr.
Yep.
It's great.
But I had it like on a shelf and
In the attic.
And one day I go up there and it's lying on the floor. I'm like, whatever, I pick it up and put it back. And then the next time we went up there, it was off the shelf and near the top of the steps. And it was a pretty long way to go. Like, it would have had to roll to get over there. And the way I like to describe it when I tell a story is T-Rexes don't roll.
Especially big Jurassic
Yeah, this
World.
thing is huge, and its legs don't bend at all. They're
And it's
rigid.
The tail, just the length of a T-Rex tail. Like, you can envision it. It's
Yeah.
Flip.
Yeah. And so I'm like, why and how are you here? And so I pick it up and I put it back, and I come downstairs and I'm like, hey, this is the second time that this thing has moved. Like, something's going on again.
And that was after I'd heard the voice in the attic. And
Yeah.
I was like, we should probably call for a second blessing. But again, I'd heard giggling in the attic. So I was like, well, there's obviously little children up there playing with your toys. Like, that's why I'm not going up there. That's why it's your job. So we got the house blessed a second time. Same priest.
Yep.
He comes. And what we love about it is he was on our porch for a very long time.
Yeah, we could see him at, like, through the windows, walking up our porch and across the porch, and then at the front door, and then at the front door, and still at the front door.
And no knocking. So we're kind of like looking at it.
And then finally a knock. And we're like, okay. And then we run over and open up the door, let him in. And he's like, sorry, I was trying to bless the front door, but the water wasn't hitting the door.
It was like
wow.
right away evaporating before he even touched the door.
Yeah.
The hose.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless the hose.
He started spraying it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was fun.
He's like, it took me a couple tries, but I finally got the water on there.
Oh, we laugh now.
Yeah.
I was just thinking we were laughing over this. We were so broken at that point. We're like, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he comes in, he blesses the house, and uses holy water all over the place.
Now, again, I'm watermelon pregnant, so I'm sitting here in the living room, on the couch, just like Buddha, or like maybe in Jabba the Hutt at that point, honestly. And from my angle, PJ's taking him all over the house, so I trust he blessed it from attic down, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But when he came through here, he stopped and he looked up at that crucifix.
And he did a double take.
Double
on
take,
it.
and he says, "That's new. We're gonna come back to that." And then he continued.
And they kept going. And afterwards, we had tea and cookies, and we're sitting on the couch, and he's like, okay, explain that to me.
And so he points to the crucifix. And so I told him what I told you guys. Like, I went to Berger's and I bought a whole bunch of crucifixes, but I love that crucifix. I feel like I can pray when I'm with it. I feel happy in this room. I feel safe in this room. I fall asleep in this room. Now I'm pregnant, but I fall asleep here on this couch right here looking at it. And his response still gives me goosebumps. He said, that crucifix is actually very important in the Catholic faith. It's a St. Benedict crucifix. There's a medallion in the background. St. Benedict is the patron saint of exorcisms.
Oh.
So, like, you say, like, I'm not kidding. Like, I have goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
Legit. And I'm like, oh. And he said, remember what he said?
It's very interesting that this cross would call to you so strongly.
Yeah, he said that was the Holy Spirit talking to you. And that, to me, shows that a blessing is not going to work. It's going to be a Band-Aid. You'll need an exorcism on this house. Like, and so he called it all those years ago, and we hoped it wouldn't be true. But he was right. We remember we used to joke, we're having our semi-annual house blessing. Every 6 months we'd have to have the house blessed. So that was just a story that I found interesting. We told the exorcist priest, he was floored by it. But he also wasn't really, he wasn't surprised, but I think it was very telling that the Holy Spirit was talking to me and saying, buy this one. You need all of these in the house,
Right.
you know. We were told that blessings would work, and we already had 2 in less than a year.
Yeah.
So, any questions? Any comments?
Now, after like a blessing, just thinking out loud, did anything ever happen like immediately? I don't know. Do you know how
The house felt like wood and plaster is what happened. Like, it felt empty.
It felt like, you know how like when you clean and the spiders go and hide in their little closets and stuff and the mice run away and like your house is clean for a little bit? It felt like that. But like for me, I never trusted that it was clean. So I think I had a different feel of it because PJ lived here for so long that it's just his house. For me, I never felt safe. That sounds terrible because I had PJ, I had my kid, you know, and then I had more kids and more animals. But I felt like I had scrubbed the floors, the mice had run back in their hole, but I knew they were still in the walls.
Well, that's what I explained in the last episode. In your episode for your house is like you're alone in the house, but you never feel alone. You know, they always felt you knew that something else was there. You could feel it.
And generally, actually, think about that. I rarely spent time in this house alone. Like if I was here, I was on the phone talking to somebody, or I was sitting on the porch in that swing rocker that we had. I didn't like being in the house alone unless I had animals surrounding me.
Yeah.
So I can say that, it felt cleaner. And, you know, the giggling in the attic stopped. So the blessings did work in some places. So if there were ghosts that were coming over.
It's sort of like putting them behind a door.
Yeah. But
the door can be open.
That evil thing never left. But
For me, at least, it felt like, at least for a little while, the house went to, you know, just a box. You know, it felt like we were living in just, you know, a house. Just some wood and plaster and glass and, you know, nothing.
Well, and I think to go with Ray's question, too, I think the one time that I felt very unsafe after doing anything in this house with the priest was when Father actually did a mass for all the dead souls.
Yeah.
It felt scary during that.
That
Very
was during.
scary.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like what I was getting to. Like, sometimes, do you know how, like, you'll do something? I mean, even from, like, a personal perspective or whatever, where, you know, something happens and, you know, there are one of two ways that it can go. Like, you know, either it's corrective or B, like, whatever. It just makes you more...
exacerbates.
Yes, you're more incensed, as it were. And sometimes I couldn't help but wonder, like, you know, after you do something to the house, you know, is whatever's here more incensed?
And I
so
can
to
say
speak.
that the more blessings we did, the less effective they became.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is really when we'll get into that. Like, leading up to those events, the cleanings, and during is when we saw, like, the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards were the best parts. We never had any, like, retaliatory stuff. It was always...
It did calm down.
It was just a roller coaster, and it got more and more deep peaks and valleys.
Because, like, I'll watch my Facebook memories, and it's like, oh, the ghost was active again. It, you know, had Sophie's flip-flop, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that, because it became so complex. I'm like, oh, yeah, the flip-flop. I forgot about that. We discussed the major stories, but there were so many more things happening all the time. It wasn't just my shoes, my dress, my watch. I had stuff missing all the time. But those are the major things, because the dress is still missing, you know? And the watch, we did that, we saw it together, you know? But so I think you got to get used to it. It becomes white noise after a while.
Yeah. Like, again, like, the first couple minutes of Paranormal Activity, where the scariest thing is the sound of keys falling off a counter on the floor. Like, I can't count how many times we heard that, so we're just like, yeah, it's just...
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
Par for the course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were used
yeah.
to it, too,
It's
with
just
the
normal.
mimic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I never
and
heard-
you explain it away. You're just like, oh, the cats must have knocked it off, or whatever. You know, like, you just...
PJ picked up my stuff.
Yeah.
What's interesting is now the kids will ask me, Mommy, where is this thing? And I know, because I think it got to a point where I had to know where I put it. And so I have like a trap in my mind of where everything is. Sophie wanted me to put her hair in curlers tonight for her picture day tomorrow. And she's like, where are the other 2 new packs you bought? I'm like, oh, they're in between the wall and the love seat. Why? I don't know. One of us put it there, but it's where it is. Illogical, but it's there. And she's like, how'd you know that? I'm like, because I got a big brain. But I think it got to the point where I had to know where I put it. That way, when it moved, I knew that it had been moved by something else.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You can't explain away your wallet now disappearing, though. That's all you.
Oh yeah, that's totally me.
To this day, where did I put my wallet? I don't know. Like, listen.
You need to get a tile for that one.
We hang the keys up by the door. That's all I got for you.
Yeah. No. I mean, but it's like in the when we talked last time, when Ray's wedding ring was found inside a paper bag inside the refrigerator. Like, that's just not something that happened. You can explain away keys falling off a counter. You could theoretically even explain the keys falling off a counter every single night at the exact same time every single night if you had to.
It's harder.
It's illogical and it doesn't make sense, but you can also always be like, well, whatever, it's just keys fall. But like, there's certain things that happen, like
you cannot explain away every single door in your kitchen open.
Exactly. And so that's where more to come the next episode.
It's funny, again, like me saying that, and I'm not sure how you guys are, but I didn't believe in ghosts. So for me even
I told you I didn't believe in ghosts either until like stuff started to happen. And for me, more things start to happen when you were in the house. It's kind of like, and then it's like, well, I guess it's an opportunity, said the ghost in the house itself, as it was haunting Ray.
Your hand in the sky, what can you say? The host.
Oh, there's a space in this bed.
Although,
scooch over.
Now, has it ever done, or has anything in the house ever done anything like right by you? Like, for example, we had given you the example of we moved into the house not long after. We had a long commute. There was like a pot of tea. And I was like, well, that's kind of like a housewarming.
It was never nice like that.
No.
We have toys all over the attic, people asking for my baby, and then things disappearing. But like for me, in the next section, I talk specifically about the basement. It took me a long time. There's no surprise that was the last room for me to decorate, and I only did it because of our adopted son. Like he did all the laundry because I wouldn't go down there. So like I hate to like give that like oh my, till next time kind of feel. But like I was afraid for my life in that basement. So like I never got
even more than our basement.
There, but yes, honestly, your basement.
Well, I mean, we don't have a well. So I mean,
I went to your basement twice. Once when it said keep out or whatever, do not enter, whatever it says.
It says keep out, yeah.
Keep door closed.
Yeah, close enough. And there were like spiders on the ceiling. So and then second time I washed some laundry. After that, I was like, PJ, we're using the town water or the town cleaning area.
Laundromat.
Yeah, when it existed. I never washed stuff at your house again.
You guys can come over anytime.
Incidentally, the washer and dryer is now moved to the second floor.
I know you told me. I would totally do laundry at your house now. I like that bathroom. It's a good bathroom. It doesn't have
the tub has
spiders.
jets now.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They're bougie. See, that's what happens when you have like a dog for a child. Like you can do that stuff. We still only have one bathroom in this house. To go back to the very beginning of this.
Full circle.
But yeah, so Ray, I don't think I ever felt really safe in any room. I don't feel like it ever like did anything nice to me. It just took stuff, and it started getting more and more malicious, which we're going to talk about, and what it took and how it took it, where it took it, because there's the whole blanket story.
Yep.
Like there were just things that I could tell that it was then being mean for no reason. So I'm going to cut it off there.
More to come.
So yes, cliffhangers, the basement's scary, not just for the well, but other things.
Yep. Well, thanks for coming to
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Do you want to be back for the next section?
Absolutely.
Sure, why not, if
Here.
you'll have us.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
For part 1 of the Wellhouse Exorcism.